Are you missing an important step in your makeup? Does concealer confuse you and you're not quite sure what to do or how to make it happen on your face? We're going to talk about that today. Concealer is one of the best things you can do for your face because it can hide imperfections, dark circles, and we're going to talk about how to best use it. You might be a little bit surprised on what I'm about to tell you because most people, or at least the old way I feel of doing concealer, is to put it on before the foundation, which I get. It makes sense, right? You do your morning facial routine, you do your primer, you get everything ready, you put on your concealer, you put on your foundation, you powder it, you're ready to go. That is sort of the old way, the old order, and we're gonna blow all that away and go a completely different direction. Yes, you still should do your morning routine with your moisturizers and your cleansing and all of that. And yes, you should definitely use your primer. And I love our primer. It is the most fantastic. This retexturing primer cream, the best ever. And I always put a little bit on my eyelids right here, a little bit on my lips, and I also kind of hit this under eye area, which we're going to talk about next. Because then I go straight to the corrector kit. Now, when you have this sort of bluish stuff going on under here, I know you all know what I'm talking about. I like to use this peach right here, and I'm just going to use this concealer brush and put it right here. And I'm just going to dab a tiny little bit. And you can see I'm not smudging it on, I'm not drawing lines, I'm just barely tapping it. And I'm going a little bit higher. And you can kind of see where that is right there. Up into here, all the way around. Now I'm just taking it, and this is one of the only places I really suggest using your fingers instead of a brush. Kind of let it sit there for a second, let it get all warm and ready to kind of move around, and then with your finger, and I always use my ring finger here, I just kind of rub it in. Now you're gonna see when you do that, it gets a lot lighter. And then it looks like, I don't know, weird highlighting stuff that's going on. And this is exactly why the next thing you want to do is foundation. Because sometimes if you add too much, it gets built upon, it gets a little bit crepey, and it falls into your fine lines, and it gets to a place where you do not want it. So less is always more. But I do always do the corrector first. You can see, I've kind of got that on. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the foundation. Now the foundation that I'm going to use today is a pretty full foundation, and I like to just stick it directly onto the brush, and you can see that there is not very much on that at all. Just a teeny tiny bit. You don't need a lot because less, again, is more. It's less that you'll have to deal with the rest of the day. Plus, if you're powdering throughout the day, then it won't fall into any place that you don't want it to fall into. Now, the reason we did the corrector before is so that now with our foundation, we can kind of blend it in. And then after that, we can see what else needs help. You may not need any other concealer. You may be good to go. Or you may, you know what, my dark circles, that was a late night last night and they're a little deeper, darker than normal, so we'll have to add a little bit of concealer. Now, I just kind of randomly put this on. I'm going to pull my hair back a little bit. And you just don't need a whole lot. That teeny tiny little bit pretty much did everything from my eyeballs down. Eyeballs, I said eyeballs. Eyeballs down. Now this brush right here is, I'm gonna put just a little bit more so I can do the upper part. And I'll even do less. You just don't want so much product that you don't know you're moving it around too much. So this is a great foundation brush. We used to use the Beauty Blender quite a bit, and I still have a place for the Beauty Blender, definitely. And it's really great for some skin types, and people love it. But I love what this brush can do to my face. Now I do just hit my eyelids just a little bit, mostly for blending. But you can see, like, it's blended really nice and really well. And it's okay, because I have some little friends right here that have come to visit. Can you see? And I'm going to conceal those right there. But so it's okay if the foundation doesn't give like all the coverage, because if you go that thick, it's too thick and it's too much. And you get crepey and you get weird, and we don't want that. None of that. So then after that, I do set the foundation with the two-way powder. And I'm just gonna I'm gonna avoid the eye area because we're gonna set that with something a little bit different. So just quickly, and honestly, just a little bit. You're putting on a lot of different layers, so you don't need a lot, just a little bit. Your makeup really should last quite a long time. Now I feel like this is a really good coverage. It's covered up everything except, there's a few little things. I know a really big trend right now is to take your concealer and to do a big triangle underneath the eye and then start to blend it out. Now, the problem with that is it's a lot of makeup. And a triangle, they're saying to go all the way down the face like this and then start blending it out, which is really great if you're 20. If you're not 20, I suggest this way a little bit better. Now this is a dual action concealer. This is a light medium. And I've got my concealer brush right here. And you can see, it's not a ton that I've put on there, just a little bit. And I'm just gonna work my way out. And it's still kind of that triangle, but you just don't need a ton of it on there. And the reason that you would put this on, in addition to what you've already done, is for that extra coverage. So I'm going to do this side, and then I'm going to show you what the difference is. Even though I have the corrector kit on, I'm going to show you what the concealer can do. And I think you're going to see that it's pretty evident. But it's just such a little amount. I have so much more on I have like ages and ages of makeup on my hand right now for what I need to be doing. So I've blended it in pretty great. Now I'm going to show you. Can you see the difference? This side is a lot darker. It's not smoothed out enough, where the concealer has really done what it should do. It's concealed. It's made a huge difference in the darkness in my eye. So I love it. I think it's really great. I'm going to go do the other side. And again, I just pull and drag out just a teeny tiny little bit. See that? It's just so minimal, tiny. And I start in the out and I kind of go in. Now, if you have some darkness or you have some red, which sometimes happens around the nose, I would just drag this around and kind of hit on each side of the nose. I don't have a whole lot, but I wanted to do it so you could kind of see what I was doing. And then you still have this triangle thing kind of going on, but it's not so much that it's really scary. You don't want to be scary, scary, scary. Now this brush, I also really like this concealer brush because it's so concise. It can get right underneath those lashes just beautifully. And we don't want to conceal our eyelashes. We want to see those. So I feel like the redness in my eye kind of goes up here. So I'm just going to drag this up just a little bit. And you can see this formula really does drag quite a ways. A lot. It does it a lot. You just need a little bit is what my point is. Now, I do like to tap, and I'm going to do it on this side. Oh, I forgot to tap the sides of my nose. Just like that. And the reason you do that is because if you pull it, sometimes you'll see it almost looks like veins of concealer on your face. So if you tap, though, it kind of gives a stippling effect. So it just stipples it right on there, and you can't tell that you even have concealer. I'm just going to add a touch more. Looks like the left eye, for me, had more of a rough night than the other eye, which is fine. And sometimes you'll see that, like one side's a little bit darker than the other, and it's okay to pay a little more attention to that side and really work your way through it. You do want to balance, and I think I've got a pretty great balance right now. So everything's been powdered and set and ready to go, except for the concealer that I've done under my eye. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can do it. And I'll do one side with this fluffy brush, and I'll do the other side with the Beauty Blender. So I'm using the Oil Control blotting powder because it goes on so translucent. It's not adding an extra color. It's a little bit lighter. You want to keep things really, really light. So I'm just going to add it to this side. and it just sets all that makeup that you did. Now feel free to go over the whole lid. It won't mess up anything that you have to do with your eyeshadow or anything else that you want to put on a little bit later. But this really sets it and makes it beautiful. Okay, so there's that way of doing it with the fluffy brush. And the reason you want to use this fluffy brush rather than, say, a kabuki brush or a blush brush or a chisel brush or something else is because it's the way it goes on is not so precise and it's very blended. So it does what it should. It blends things very nicely. It kind of disperses that makeup right where it needs to go, which is really great. And that's the purpose of this brush. Fantastic at blending eyeshadow, fantastic at covering your concealer. Love it, love it, love it. The other technique that you could do is using the Beauty Blender. And I just like to use, now make sure it's damp. It's gotta be damp or it won't work very well. But I just use this tip right here and I just get a little bit on there like that. And I just dap it underneath. Now, I probably use this technique more than I do the blender brush. I just wanted to show you there's two different options. This one tends to last a little bit longer. I don't have to fuss with it throughout the day. And I think it's because the sponge is moist, and so it's kind of going through the foundation that's already a little bit damp, the concealer, it's already a little bit damp, and it's just accepting it. And then when it dries, it just has that very nice matte finish. So anytime you're trying to conceal something, you don't want it to be shiny. So make sure that you're using something that's matte. So if you do have a bronzer or you have a blush or you have even a powder that's got a little bit of mineral in it, make sure that you can't see it. It needs to be really, really matte, really, really flat. Because if it's got this shimmer in it, it just is like, hi, look at me. And that's not the goal here. We want to hide it. And so you can see that the result is about the same. I think it's very close to the same. I do think that using the Beauty Blender brush lasts just a little bit longer. And I really, really love it with this oil control. And so when we do our powdering, make sure you use an oil control blotting powder rather than your regular powder that you would use your kabuki brush with, because that will just stay in this area throughout. Anyway, avoid the eyes is what I'm trying to say. Just avoid the eyes. With your kabuki brush, use one of those other methods. All right, with all of that said and done, I do want to kind of bring a little bit of attention to my little friends right here. So I'm going to pull back out my concealer brush, and I'm just going to get just the very littlest amount on there. And I'm just going to go in and very lightly cover. And then with my finger, because it's warm, well, sometimes it's warm, it's getting warm, go ahead and lift it up. Now you don't want to rub. You just want to pat, pat, pat. It's hard to say pat, pat, pat. Pat, pat, pat. Oh, I did it. Here we go. But you can see as it's blending, it's kind of blending away, right? Maybe this one here, a couple of little guys over here. You want to try and keep it as close to your skin color as possible. Picking your concealer color is not hard at all. We have a few different shades to keep it really simple. You don't have to match an undertone or anything like that. I have a medium skin color, and I've chosen a light medium. It's very simple and very easy, and your foundation is what you are blending it into, so it will just go seamlessly and make it perfect. I know a lot of people like to try and use a concealer that's a little bit lighter. I suggest using as close to your own foundation color as you possibly can, because if you're putting something that's lighter on top of something that's sticking out or red, it just draws attention to it. It's really, really hard to camouflage. So you want to make sure that you lift, you pat and you lift to something that's pretty close to your own skin tone. Now on this one, you could use the oil control powder, but because of where it is placed on my face, it's in this direction, I'm actually going to use the kabuki brush just a little bit. Underneath the eyes, it's a little bit different, and is why I suggest using the blotting powder. It's a lighter formulation. The color doesn't stick so deeply so that you can see it in all the wrinkles and crevices and fine lines. But here, I don't have really a wrinkle right there, so I'm just going to set it. And again, tap, tap, tap. If you brush too hard, it can ruin the whole thing. So you want to make sure that you're just tapping, just like so. And now, all the imperfections are completely gone because I was born this perfect this morning. I woke up like this, right? So your takeaway from this whole thing would be the concealer brush and the dual action concealer. Both of these things will take your face to a place of flawlessness, of beautifulness. It can be ready for all the rest of your makeup that's going to happen, and your day can be, well, flawless. Have a flawless day.